Hey everyone, David Ryshpan here again on YouTube, and this is part 4 of my series, Comping Concepts. And today we're going to talk about two-handed voicings. In the last video, we talked about left-hand voicings, four-note rootless closed voicings. And today we're going to talk about sharing them between both hands. If we're comping for a singer, comping for another soloist, what do we do with both hands? How do we spread the voicings between both hands? If you haven't watched the previous 3 videos, I will link them in a playlist up here in the cards and in the description box below. If you haven't done so already, please click like and subscribe. It helps me know that this content is reaching people, that people are getting use out of these videos, and it also really goes to support the channel. So if you're all caught up and you're ready to move on to two-handed voicings, let's get into it. All right, so we talked about rootless four-note voicings, 3, 5, 7, 9. And in this video, I want to talk about two primary variations that come out of those four-note rootless voicings. The first one I want to talk about is commonly called drop 2. And what does drop 2 mean, or where does that terminology come from? So if I take D minor 7, D minor 9 in closed position from the 7th, okay, I'm going to drop the second note from the top. I'm going to drop it by an octave. So that F is now going to be on the bottom, and I get this type of distribution of notes. 3, 7, 9, 5. And now, because we understand the voice exchange between 3 and 7 and 5 and 9, see the last video for more detail on that, everything moves the same way. The motor is the same. The voice leading motor is the same. The axis of voice leading is exactly the same. So my third is here, my 7th is middle C, my 9th is E, and my 5th is A. So if I want to move to G9, well, the common tones F and A are now on the outside of the voicing. So it's the middle two notes that would move. I know I'm playing like kind of a fake vibraphone player, but it's just to show the voice leading as clearly as possible on video. And that distribution of notes is something I play all the time. And also in my conception, and I might be the only person who thinks about it this way, the majority of two-handed voicings have drop 2 at their core. So if you've read Mark Levine's jazz piano book, there are chapter upon chapter of different types of voicings. He talks about quartal voicings built on fourths. He talks about the so what voicing from the famous Miles Davis and Bill Evans composition. He has all kinds of different voicings, but for me, they're all drop 2 plus a note. So if we take, let's say, if we take the so what voicing, well, to me, that's a drop 2. That would be a C6-9 drop 2, right? So here's C6-9. And then I'm going to drop the E down an octave. So now I'm in my drop 2 shape, and all I'm going to do is add a major third on top. I'm going to add the B on top. I should also mention that speaking of quartal voicings, those are all fourths. So again, this idea of quartal voicings is not separate from drop 2. It's not a different category necessarily. To me, they're kind of linked. It's a shape, it's a distribution of notes. Guitarists are much more at ease thinking about shapes than pianists are. And I think getting to know shapes and grips and really feeling how a certain distribution of notes not only sounds but feels under one's hand, I think that's vital in terms of internalizing all this stuff more quickly and more efficiently. So there's my C6-9 voicing, which happens to be all fourths. And now I add a note on top of it. There's my so what voicing, and then I move it down a whole tone. There's so what. But conceptually, I'm getting at it from drop 2. I'm not having to think of it as an entirely separate thing. I can take that same C6-9 voicing and I can add another fourth on top of it. And that's C6-9, what Mark Levine would call a quartal voicing. But to me, the core of it is still drop 2. And so I can take that voicing and walk it up through C major. You could call those quartal voicings. I prefer to think of them as drop 2 plus drop 2 deluxe. You know, drop 2 plus a note. The other two-handed voicing I want to talk about is something my teacher, Brian Rudolph, called tops. And the way that works is you play your standard 4-note rootless voicing in your left hand. Then you can put in your right hand an octave of any note or extension that works over that chord. So over D minor, I could play, let's just go from the next note up. So I could play the 3rd. I could play the 11th. I could play the 5th. With great care and responsibility, I could play the 6th. I could play the 7th. I could play the root. And I could play the 9th. And then you follow that experimentation for every chord, for the 5 chord and for the 1 chord in all 12 keys. The next step is that inside of that octave, I can add another note. And if anyone's ever played guitar, you might know what a power chord is, the shape of 1/5 octave. Right? So we're going to take that type of shape, and it's not going to be 1-5-1 of the chord, it's going to be 1-5-1 of the note that we already have an octave of, right? And it might wind up being 1-4-1 as well. So for example, if I start D minor 9, and I'm going to play F in octaves. Well, I can play the C in the middle. That's 1-5-1. Now, if I play G, I have 2 choices. I can play C in between, or I can play D. Going up to A, I can play D in the middle, or I can play E. Going up to C, I can play F in the middle. Or I can play G. So I have this myriad of options on every single chord. So now what I can do is when I play a 2-5-1, I can think about building melodies in my right hand. And now my voicings become driven by a melody, by a melodic movement that I want to have inside of my comping. And I could do the same thing kind of with drop twos as well. And that's with all non-altered notes. I put no chromatic alterations on the dominant. No flat 9, no flat 13, no sharp 9. That's all natural 9, natural 13, no sharp 11, right? Super basic 5-note harmony. And it's a mix of drop twos plus extra notes, and what I call tops. When you hear me comp in whether it's kind of a straight ahead swing context or even Brazilian music, a lot of Brazilian music, because the guitar lends itself to drop two shapes. So I play a lot of drop two when I play in Brazilian music. And tops are often how I conceive of montunos in Afro-Cuban music. My left hand might be playing a voicing and I'll have a top, some kind of octave or octave plus in the right hand. If I want to get away from playing a strict locked octaves montuno, if I want to get away from that, I can kind of hint at the clave and hint at the montuno by playing tops around the clave and the accents of my montuno. So that's my crash course in two-handed voicings, part 4 of the Comping Concepts series. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and this series of lessons, please click like and subscribe. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. I will do my best to answer them, and let's have a discussion about your favorite two-handed voicings. My name is David Ryshpan. I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Bonus footage for people who stuck around to the end. One of my favorite two-handed voicings that does not fall into the category of drop 2 plus is I think Mark Levine calls it the Kenny Barron voicing. It is 2 sets of stacked fifths. So if I take D minor 9, one, 5, 9 in my left hand, 3, 7, 11 or 3, 7, 4 in my right. All right. See you in the next one for real. Peace.